some additional scope areas that aren't, more extensive renovations. And then the second section is the future phases. So this is the phase 1 scope work that we're currently in design for. So I'll give you an update on how that process is going and the areas of work that is in. And then at the tail end of the project, or of the presentation, is just a series of floor plans that goes through enabling phase 1, and what's intended for phase 2, and just bubbling those different groups of areas in the floor plans. But we won't go into that detail unless there's additional questions. So to start with the enabling phase, looking at the schedule and overall process, this is just a bar graph schedule to simplify it. The enabling phase, phase 1, and then phase 2. So as you can see, we've received bids, which is what you're going to be acting on tonight, and the intention is construction to occur over the summer with some construction activities trailing into the fall. So first, a little overview of the process. We had several meetings with user groups, meetings specifically focused on the art department, because a large portion of the renovated space was graphic design and photo lab. And so we had an initial meeting talking through with them about the needs of those spaces. We had continued discussions with them, and one of the biggest things that came out of some of those initial discussions was that some of the thinking of where they felt it would be best suited to relocate those facilities, both graphic design and photo, had changed from what we had discussed in the referendum. So they saw an opportunity to consolidate that more with the art department on the first floor. Originally, it was planned to come on the second floor of the library. So we pivoted from that, and through a series of meetings with them, relocated where we were thinking of having that, figured how it worked in with the rest of the master plan, went through a series of sketches which slowly got into more and more detail about the needs of the space. What you're seeing here is actually a plan with trace paper over the top of it, where our project architect, John Jewell, was sitting there working with them and tracing out ideas in real time. It's like, well, what if we moved this over here? And so they would work through that. We also rethought about how we were treating the second floor of the library, and actually even input from our phase 1 discussions with users impacted that such that we were able to minimize the amount of disruption based on how we were rethinking the second floor of the library for that future phase. So we were actually able to minimize the amount of area that we were planning to disrupt. Yeah?
Are you saying that those art areas will not be that they're going to be in a different part of the building now?
No, they're going to be closer to the auditorium, where the current.
We couldn't tell where that layover was.
Oh yeah. So I'm going to go into more specifics on where the that was just kind of going over the process about how those user groups really impacted what the final design was and how important they were to that overall process. So I'm going to go into the specific areas in the building where the enabling phase scopes will work.
Okay, sorry, thanks. I'm jumping ahead.
So we're going to start on lower level and then work our way up with these basic plan diagrams, and then sprinkle in some more understandable kind of axons as we go through. But on the lower level, this area here in purple is where the existing photo and graphic design labs are. Additionally, within the enabling phase scopes of work is we are going to be renovating the toilet rooms in this stack on the lower level, first floor and second floor. Oh, and there's a tag showing that. Actually, going back here, after graphic design and photo move out of there, we are going to be subdividing that space into 3 separate classrooms, and those will serve as interim classrooms throughout phase 1 to allow for swing space for other classrooms to be worked on throughout the school year. So that will remain as interim classrooms until we get to phase 2, where they will eventually be renovated into another function. So this is just an axonometric showing the exact same floor plan. As you can see, the 3 different interim classrooms, and then the toilet room renovation occurring here. So moving up to level 1, this is where art, graphic design, and photo are going to be relocated to. Again, the toilet room renovation. We're also renovating the area just north of those art labs into the art office. Art office is currently occupying this corner of the building. That is going to go back to being a painting
I'm
lab.
so sorry to interrupt. Do you mind telling me which slide you're on, because I'm trying to follow?
Slide 14.
Thank you.
So that's going to go back to being a painting lab. Also, we are going to be relocating study hall into this area, which is the current faculty resource room. That faculty resource room is going to be relocated up to the second floor of the library. And then in the bottom left-hand corner, you're seeing a small box. That is the modifications to the entry to the commons to allow that to be a secure entry for students, where there would be a transaction window through the wall of the commons, so students would be able to enter into the vestibule, or visitors would be able to enter in the vestibule, be checked in before they're allowed entry into the school. Similar to how the front main entrance functions. However, this would serve as an accessible entry for that purpose. And again, this is just an axonometric showing the renovated layout of the area for graphic design and photo, as well as the toilet rooms and the painting studio and art office. The next slide shows level 2. Again, the toilet room renovation coming up to this level. One thing to note is on each of these levels, we will be renovating it such. Currently, it's just group restrooms, both boys and girls. That will be renovated to still maintain that function, still maintain the number of fixtures there, but also add in 3 to 4 individual user restrooms on each of those levels, just with the space that we were given, able to make it more consolidated and concise. We have this area on the second floor near the auditorium is going to be renovated into 2 classrooms, as well as the second floor of the mezzanine, as I had mentioned, being the new faculty resource, as well as a small flex classroom in that area. This is an axonometric showing the 2 classrooms. There will be 2 breakout collaboration rooms. There will be access off those classrooms for student group work. And then the second floor of the library, the faculty resource room and the flex classroom, as well as the security desk on the first floor of the commons, shown there. So those are the main areas of work. Was there a question? Sorry, I thought I heard something. There are other areas of work. We're going to be addressing the deteriorating stoop condition here at West Campus for the gymnasium doors, as well as some work at the field house doors and the front entry stair. Actually, John, I'm going to kick that back to you. Was the front entry stair still in this scope of work? Because I know that was being debated as being deferred to the phase 1.
Front entry width is actually, it's in the scope of work, it's one. However, being performed in next time.
Okay. So it's within the scope of work, it's within what you're approving to be done. However, the sequencing of that will occur in 2025. So before I move on to the future phases, are there any questions about the enabling phase scope of work? And that, again, that is what you're approving today as far as those bid costs.
The breakout for the front door and the front area, is that something you guys can pull out separately and just kind of itemize, or is it already there?
As far as the stair reconstruction?
Yeah, just what is envisioned within that we could specifically, and there's a motive behind that. There's been other discussions of,
Sure.
We talk about the alumni group and some of the other things. There's been talk about maybe being able to look at specific fundraising opportunities around some things that might be either lasting or purposeful for alumni, and that's one of the things that had come up in conversations about. If you think about anything in the building, it's kind of hard to identify where the alumni, but actually having something that would be substantial in terms of the front entrance and restoring that might have some applicability to a purpose behind that. So if that could just get identified or shared to Matt and the team with Dan, so we just kind of could understand what that looks like, and then if there was additional things to look at, that might be able to be monies that could be put back in.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking to Lance from Pepper Construction.
Just a footnote, if you don't mind, just since you're all here, so if that could be something just kind of lightly or politely done and brought back, and that we can get it over to Leslie and some of the alumni folks for us to start to understand if it's an impossibility, it's just too far of a reach, especially happening in not this summer, but next.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be an issue. And then, we can also keep in mind, other opportunities as they present themselves in the other phases and scopes of work.
So when we look at the pie chart of where we're spending money, a massive amount of it is going to infrastructure, HVAC, and stuff that is not reflected here. Is that all happening in real time with this?
Yes. So a significant portion is for the infrastructure, and as we renovate certain spaces, we'll be upgrading certain systems within those spaces. Now, the lighting and that is certainly being upgraded, as well as the audiovisual and IT. However, the HVAC in these specific spaces are not being addressed at this point, and that's because there are still decisions to be made about the backbone serving those. So the existing unit ventilators will still function within these spaces, at least for this interim period. So we're going to move on to phase one, that future phase that we're currently in design for. And so you're seeing both phase one and phase two here. Phase two wouldn't be started that design until a future date, but we're currently in the middle of phase one design. And here's a breakout of highlighting all the user group meetings that we're currently having. So we're touching a lot of different departments, and we've been working with the school to organize that process. Essentially what we landed on is breaking out each of those departments into 3 separate groups and meeting with each of those groups on a 3-week rolling cycle. So we meet with group A in week 1, B week 2, C week 3, and in week 4 we meet with A again, and then just continue on through the rest of the school year. There are certain breaks for spring break we're going to be skipping over, and then we are also making adjustments as needed with the school as far as shifting to meet with certain groups at certain times based on conflicts and such.
And just in terms of the non-building people in the community, or some of us, when you think about that process and that review and those conversations, why is that one needed in terms of what you are doing, and what does that afford you in terms of being able to talk to those user groups? What is the benefit that you see in terms of really making this successful?
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely critical to actually be designing these spaces to meet the functional needs of delivering education curriculum for those specific subjects. So particularly, art is a prime example. We had met with them, and they brought different ideas about how we could address their needs that were identified within the master plan, but in a different way. And then what hasn't been done within the master plan is getting into the specific needs of the space, getting down to the detail level about the power needs that they have, or the organization of the room, or how they need to interact with IT to what degree. A typical classroom is going to function very different from a science lab or an art lab, or those sort of things. So we can only get into that level of detail. Now, certainly we have a lot of experience of doing those, but each school delivers curriculum slightly differently, each teacher as well. We are designing for the longevity of the school and flexibility, but we also want to make sure we're addressing the needs of the curriculum at the time and allowing for flexibility and change in the future. So those conversations are what's happening with each of these groups. Also, the master plan was flying at a very high level as far as how to organize the departments within the school. Once we get into the detail level, we have made changes in each of the departments and pivoted about how you're organizing the department offices and how they interact with the rest of the the classrooms around them, and getting into more and more nuanced detail as we continue on through this process throughout the rest of the year. So before we get into some of the specific departmental examples of what we worked with each of the departments, there's some also typical, more general conditions that we're having discussions about. You know, we're talking about the organization of circulation through the space and the opportunities for better wayfinding and signage to make it easier to navigate the space. A part of this, the referendum, was making it easier for students to, one, navigate the space, but also to find help where they need to and have things occur in more logical manners. So the alignment of departmental offices in that central core along with the student services. So we're having conversations about that, as well as where there are opportunities for collaboration zones within the facility and how those serve each of the departments. We're also talking about things like the amount of transparency into classrooms. And I can share with you, it's leaning much more towards a typical entry you're seeing on the left with a pair of entry doors with side lights into each of the classrooms, and then adding clerestory windows at the top to make the interior spaces of the corridors not feel so confined, as well as to allow for other opportunities for daylight to be spilling out into those spaces, even if you don't necessarily have a direct line of sight. We've also had several discussions with all the departments about the use of lockers, as well as with the administration. And the intention at this point in time is to eliminate the lockers throughout the school. However, address the need that was highlighted from multiple sources throughout the master plan, as well as in these user groups, to provide equipment lockers. Lockers for the storage of whether it's, for sports or some other extracurricular activity. So those are the things that students are using lockers for, but the lockers that they have don't serve those purposes. So we're identifying locations where those can exist within the facility, but then also eliminating the lockers and then providing that additional space back to the classrooms to either allow for additional storage or just more space within those classrooms. For several of the departments, we're going to be renovating their departmental offices and relocating those to, like I said, make those more aligned and easier to find and more consistent in how they're operating and how the students interact with those spaces, as well as locating academic resource centers closer to those offices so that it is easier for a student to find help when they need it and know exactly where they need to go throughout the facility. So now I'm going to touch on each of the different program areas or departmental areas that we're having discussions with for phase one. First is world language, and here you're seeing some planning diagrams of what's come out of those discussions, all the areas highlighted in green. I'm not going to get into specifics, but a couple things are highlighted as far as opportunities for collaboration spaces within the reorganization of those classrooms. We've also identified other opportunities, theater classroom that's where it's currently occupying, where graphic design is being relocated to. That is a program that doesn't have as many sections, or doesn't meet as often, but it is a need. So we've identified an opportunity where there's a classroom in world language that it can, for when it needs to be a theater classroom, can expand and be a theater classroom. But when it doesn't, it can be that world language classroom most of the time. So it's making more efficient use of the space rather than having a space dedicated to that theater classroom. It is also, we did have another slide previously, but it's also located in a good spot right in the middle of the little theater with the auditorium and the green room down here. So it makes a lot more functional sense as well. Oh, this is the diagram I was showing. So this is just the exact same location. So we've been having discussions with the CAD lab As far as where they want to be in the space, this was another instance where they brought to us an opportunity where they saw better synergy. We had a location identified, which is the middle portion shown here. They said they would benefit from being more directly adjacent to the wood shop. So for what they do, they said, even though this is a little bit less space, that would be preferable to them. It's comparable to what was shown in option B, but this would serve them better. And so it really just requires us to do our design work here and then relocate the wellness classroom into this other space, which is still within that wellness department. So here's a couple test fits, example of what we've recently presented to the CAD lab, not only showing them different layouts, but also showing them examples to kind of spark conversation on the level of detail. And as we get further and further along, you know, some of these things might be implemented in more detail into these. You know, interesting part about CAD lab is they were very much more interested in putting what they're doing on display, having more transparency in these instances. Same with the Maker Lab. They identified that they want to expose what's going on in there. So we're taking that nuanced approach and applying it where it's appropriate. So I mentioned the Maker Lab. This was another conversation. Originally, the Maker Lab in the master plan was identified to go into the location here. After further discussion with them and also looking at trying to improve the longevity of the interim classrooms, we're going to keep those as interim classrooms and expand the Maker Lab within its own space and then further toward the existing stair. And then the business incubator, which was on that side, just kind of flip-flopped them. And so what we did was we actually invited, even though business incubator wasn't a part of phase one, invited them into our conversations with Maker to make sure, you know, this change would still align with their goals. And it did. And so we pivoted in that regard. And so here's an example of some recent diagrams and some example imagery that we've shown to that group. Now moving up to English and social studies. Again, this is an example where social studies is really proposed for phase two. However, we brought them into the conversation, at least in these early conversations, because decisions we're making in English, you know, affect them. So we wanted to add their input. And so, you know, we've been having a lot of conversations about where that dividing line occurs, as well as how we're treating the departmental offices in a similar manner and getting their input on those as well. So just to take a step back on this, originally in the master plan, we actually had a couple social studies classrooms there. And so it was really adjusting to allow for space to create those collaboration zones, but still maintain the number of classrooms. And we were able to do so by looking at, you know, what's going on the second floor in the math department and their number of classrooms. So again, making sure we're bringing in all the voices that need to be heard in order to hit the classroom counts and meet the needs of each department. Similarly in science, having discussions with them about the overall development of the science department, even though it's intended to be split construction-wise and bidding-wise between phase one and phase two. So we're taking it up to a certain degree, and then talking about how the level's organized and the number of classrooms dedicated to chemistry, physics, etc. And then going through with them about the size and space needs for each of those functions, and, you know, we'll get into more and more detailed conversations about the nuanced needs for physics, chemistry, etc. Also within phase one is special education, so having a lot of discussions with them about how to organize and renovate these spaces, and this is, you know, current reflection of a recent conversation, separating out the student-focused areas from the faculty-focused areas, and how to subdivide those spaces to meet the needs of that program. And then for IT and ed tech, we've been having very good conversations with them. Originally, IT was In the master plan, located on the lower level, meant to occupy the previous faculty resource area. But once we got into conversation with them, they said we would actually benefit from being co-located with ed tech, because quite often when a student goes to, or a faculty member goes to get help, they need to go to one or the other, and often will go to the wrong one and then be sent to the other department. So they said if we could be co-located, it would be much more beneficial. And so that prompted our investigation of the second floor of the library, since graphic design and photo were no longer there, and also the amount of traffic that goes through that area. It just made a whole lot of sense once we started laying it out. And this conversation is exactly what led to our amendment of the bid documents for that enabling phase, in order to minimize the amount of work being done at that time, knowing that this work was going to happen there. So that covers all of phase one, and like I said, post this, we do have the plans showing enabling phase one, phase two, and goes through each of the levels. We don't necessarily need to go through that now, but we wanted to show that for your reference, so you also knew it's like, okay, this is what's going on in phase two, but happy to answer any questions you might have on any of that.
I have one more question / comment. When I saw the plans to invert the makerspace and the business incubator, it made me think about the contributions that have come primarily not only through the foundation, which John was also referencing in terms of future focus projects, but I'm assuming we're bringing the foundation along and that there's not a sense that what they gave us before or what was state of the art at the time is being discarded in any way. I assume we're mindful of that and that they're on the journey with us. I guess I don't know, I'm sort of asking that of Aaron
So,
and Matt, if there's any-
yes, that has come up in conversations. We haven't had specific discussions with the foundation. However, this also came up in graphic design because I believe the technology and the workstations that they use in there were part of the discussion about, you know, how can that be accommodated and relocated within the newer facility. So yes, those come up when we talk about the specific spaces, and the same will be true for Business Incubator. We will make an assessment and have a discussion with them about the viability of utilizing that existing equipment and making it work within the new space, and then whatever's not working, see how that can be adjusted. And then any further conversations that would happen with the foundation, John, as you pointed out, of opportunities to provide, you know, supplement those things. You know, we can bring that, you know, we have, one thing I didn't highlight in that 3-week rolling cycle with the user groups, on that 3-week cycle, we also meet with district and building leadership to give them an update on what's been discussed, to highlight, you know, particular issues that have come up that we think they need to be aware of or provide input for. And this would be one of those things that I think would come up in those conversations as well.
I mean, I look at Jenny because you had that role, and Suzanne after you. We all have the same shared goals. I just think we need to be careful about bringing them along, so that they don't feel like
that they've been left out of the conversation.
Yeah, or that there's not an appreciation for what was done.
Well, and and maybe you're going to say what I'm going to say, but I spent 10 years on the foundation, specifically in the area of grants. And yes, they brought the Business Incubator program to the high school. They funded the program itself. They were involved in the training behind the program, and they provided the furniture within that space as well. And I do think that our parent leadership teams should be involved in those every 4-week conversations if possible. I think specifically the foundation, I know that for many years there was a desire by the foundation to have kind of a target goal from the high school on a specific need, so that they could fundraise around something very specific, as opposed to the way they operate, which is to ask the teachers to bring them ideas, and then they strategize in terms of how much funding they can provide to the different departments in the building. So I do think that there's tremendous benefit in partnering with them, because I think that they could be a real asset. But as our parent liaison, our board liaison to the parent leadership, Dave, you probably have more to add.
Well, I was at the meeting last week, and this topic actually did come up, so I can't speak to how the existing investments are being, integrated with what we're doing now. But it definitely was a challenge for them as related to grants that they're soliciting, because the feedback they're getting from the teachers are that when the teachers are thinking about what they could use and have talked with I think the finance and ops team, unfortunately, phase 1 and phase 2, as you had mentioned, is still under development. And so when they ask about, will we get this, will we get that, it's still very much a to be determined, because the designs are still in, the detailed designs of how this is actually going to play out is still being discussed and still being designed. And so I think what the foundation is seeing is that everybody's kind of pausing, waiting to find out how the design is going to play out. And so if that could be a collaboration, great. So I don't know the exact decision-making process of saying, okay, well, we'll capture this, you capture that. I think it's more the team developing the designs is kind of determining where we're going to go and what's left. At least this is how the foundation is approaching it now. They're saying what isn't covered by the referendum, we'll try to, deal with the gaps. That's, I know you had talked about let's give them a big goal to go over. They haven't really been talking too much about that. I think they're in that mode of hearing what the teachers feel like they need and just reacting to that. But the number of grant requests was definitely low this year, and that was their explanation. It's like, we just don't know what we're going to need. We need to find out how the designs are going.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think speaks to Sally's idea that maybe they be brought along in this a little bit, because maybe they would realize, hey, here's an area where we could help.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that just out of respect for what they've done for the school for, oh my gosh, 20 years, I think it would be nothing but beneficial. So that's on you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you so much. Really appreciate the
You're welcome.
engagement with the district and everyone, so
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
And then outside of Dan, I would say you guys are good to go, and thank you so much for being here.
Dashboard. All right, we're going to move into the agenda and the regular meetings. So again, thanks to Rick and the team. Appreciate that. So I'm going to start briefly with the president's report. So I will do more in April. Are we good? Oh, that's right there, impacts.
Yeah, we're going to do that first.
Are we going to do that first? Okay, my bad. All right, so we're gonna jump me, which is fine, and we're going to go to the APT President Kristen Lee and their impact report. So welcome. Thank you for being patient with us. We're a little tardy, but
No, that was very interesting. Thank you
got you
for
a lot of good info.
My name is Kristen Lee, and I'm the president of the Lake Forest High School APT, and I'm part of, I believe, the Impact Series to kind of talk about the relationships that or highlight the relationships that parents have with the school, and I know that a lot of you have been to our APT meetings and a lot of our events, so thank you so much for coming and for your continued support. Our mission is to make our community stronger through service and volunteerism. The APT provides support for the teachers, enrichment for the students, and opportunities for parents to be involved. Our APT meetings are the first Thursday of the month. We meet at 9:15 in the morning, and we meet at Croya. Everyone is welcome anytime. We'd love to, the more people, the better. A lot of times, Dr. Lennard has been super wonderful and had coffees beforehand, which is really a great opportunity for more parents to come and ask questions. We've also had board members come early for bagels with the board, which has also been another opportunity for the community to have access to the board and to Dr. Lennard to ask questions and just get to know them better, which has been a really great opportunity. I think I'm going to pull to the next slide, sorry. Can I switch it here, or is it? Oh, okay, Sorry, I'm not very versed in this. Some of the APT events and activities that we do is the Be True to Your School, which normally happens in the beginning of the year. We have a great career connections program that is actually kind of being reinvented right now with Dr. Sasson and our two reps, which are Monica Yon and Tanner Van Dusen. They do the open doors for career shadowing, shadowing your future, professional panels, scouting your summer job opportunity fair. So really trying to connect students with opportunities for jobs or internships or just to learn more about various careers. We just came off of our talent show, which is one of our fundraisers, which was the 62nd, and it was a huge success. The theme was camp. There is a virtual version available if you wanted to see it, but there's you can also go to their Instagram page. It was a really huge success and really showcases the amazing talent that we have at the high school. We have prom coming up, which will be a little different this year. It's on the Odyssey boat downtown Chicago, which will be super fun for all of our juniors and seniors, and that is May 18th. Prior to that, we'll also continue to have the red carpet, which is a huge tradition in Lake Forest, and I think that will also continue to be live streamed, so you can watch it either in person or in the comfort of your home. So lots of opportunities there, which is a real treasured tradition. We have special events for the students that are focusing on emotional wellness, which is the Chill Scout, which is kind of a surprise. We work with the activities department, and we have an amazing committee on that as well that just shows up at the school and surprises the kids with various activities. There was one for Valentine's Day, there was another one for Thanksgiving, and it's kind of the kids walk into the cafeteria and there's a whole bunch of different fun stuff for them. This year we're bringing back Smoking Meats, which is where our wellness team, the wellness team at the high school, specifically I think led by the football coaches, smoke meats throughout the night and then give the kids little tastes of them around lunchtime. Then we'll have the wellness walk coming up, which is including like kind of a carnival on the front lawn. I'm sure many of you have seen it, but that is a super fun thing in May, kind of right before finals and to celebrate, hopefully, knock on wood, some really nice weather. We also do some outreach, which is service opportunities for families. We keep them on our website. We work with the school for the National Honor Society to try and offer opportunities for the kids. We have grade level representatives for each grade that try and, or that communicate with the different families and kind of in the different grades and talk about what's kind of are the point people if they have questions. Our senior grade level representatives do breakfast for the seniors and different events throughout the year. We also have a new family welcome committee that welcomes new families to the district. There's an event in the beginning of the year, but also kind of touches in with new people that come throughout the year. We have our senior contribution awards that happen in May. The hospitality is really a group that does things for the staff and for teachers. We've had 2 events so far this year that have been really fun, and then we also have a grants committee. We'd invite you to please follow us on Instagram or Facebook. The Facebook handle didn't make the slide, I'm sorry, but the Instagram handle did, and we're always reposting things that are going on at the school, not related to the APT, and just highlighting all of the cool things that our kids are doing there. So thank you guys all so much for your support and for everything you do for the students and that enable us to be involved. And so thank you very much. Have a good night.
Yes. All right, so President's report be quick. I'll do anything more substantial in April, but I did want to call out some attention to my fellow board members. The time they've been spending around different activities. We spent about, I think, 5.5, 6 hours on Friday in a workshop, and not to tease the lead too much, but we will be coming out with some specific targets, board goals, some other types of activities. It's progressing in terms of discussions and things to try to be more, bring things a little bit more of a digestible format and understanding to the community. So it's all in the theme of what's been happening from the portrait to learn to the strategic plan to the action plans that are happening currently. But this is, again, trying to, translate and bring a higher level of understanding and simplicity to the success or not success, but how do we measure what's going on in the building for the community. And I think there's a lot of things to be really, really thankful and positive about and share that. But again, trying to figure out the exact and best ways to do that currently and create a bit of a roadmap going forward. So I just want to thank all of the board members individually for their time and their efforts and their thoughtfulness. We are having active discussions, no yelling yet, but a lot of discussions and ideas, and I think it's what I'm grateful for the colleagues that I have here and their time and energy, and I think it's understated a lot. And I don't know if the community fully understands the gift that's been given to them by these 6 individuals. And I would extend that additionally to Matt, the admin, and all the time that's been going on that side, just the constant thought effort for them to improve what is already a very good environment. And a quick special thank you to Aaron for all of the work you did to allow Friday to function. Not too many of you were on the Google Doc, but I was texting back and forth on that with her, as well as Matt and a few others, and just the thoughtfulness and the willing to explore so many different ideas and concepts and ways to get this done. And we're not there yet. We're going to go, and stuff's already happening. So it's really, really special. I feel very gifted to be a part of this and to be able to contribute in a small way with that. So all of that, I just want to say thank you, and we will move on to Dr. Montgomery.
Yeah, I'm just giving Tiana a moment. Thanks, Tiana. And I'll echo John's gratitude for the board being with us and dedicating the 5.5 hours on Friday, and also Erin for her expert leadership and facilitation. And I know that we are getting, she'll be providing follow-up. John, Erin, and I, as well as the internal team, we're wrestling over feedback from Friday to give you an update. So there will be more information to come. My superintendent's report will be brief tonight. The first thing I'm going to highlight is we just received our community satisfaction research poll data back. And in the board workshop, the board heard from Fallon Research on those results. They have seen the raw data previously, but this was a summary with Paul Fallon. And what I would like to highlight are just a few things. One is that a video of Fallon Research presenting this data will be released to the public in the coming weeks, if not this week, as well as a presentation will also be given to the 67 board next Tuesday. One thing that I honed in on was, because this is a survey that we've given every other year, we can start to draw longitudinal data. And when I'm able to do that, I hone in on particularly this question: are you satisfied or dissatisfied with Lake Forest Public Schools, city schools? Last year, or 2 years ago, we were at 63.4. This year, and that is the ones, the individual 63.4 said that they view Lake Forest schools as either excellent or good. This year, we're at 66%. What you should note is those two numbers are they're not statistically different from each other, but they are, if I'm going to have two numbers that are not statistically different from each other, I still want to be moving in the positive direction. So I was pleased that we are ticking in the upward trend, and that we are seeing a majority of our community finding our schools either excellent or good. When you look at parents within the community, our number jumps to 78%. And I think that we should be proud of those results. Far from perfect in terms of everything that we need to work on, and John alluded to some of the work that we are engaging in, from our strategic plan to our metrics to our board goals, but I am very pleased with these results. So please expect further communication to the community at a wider lens, and it'll either be this Friday or the following. I may wait until the 67 board gets the presentation and then release it immediately after, just to make sure they're getting equal access prior to it going to the community. There will be an update on the referendum, and because we moved the workshop into this venue and Mr. Noble presented what was being shared, there was a preview or sneak peek to Thursday, April 11th, where we will have a referendum project update for the community, and I'm thrilled to share the progress that we've made. Tonight, we're looking at bids for the enabling project, as you heard. There's many, many moving parts, and I am excited to share that progress with the community on April 11th. This year, we have been focused on board outreach. Our next community coffee with the board presidents will be April 24th from 6:30 to 7:30 at the Gorton Center. Please stop by. Sometimes we have 0 people, sometimes we have 20 to 30 people. We can't predict it. And the amount of people that show up is less important than the fact that we're giving opportunities for our community to spend time with our board presidents and answer questions in an informal setting to hopefully dive deeper into anything that individual members just want to know a little bit more about. We have been running a Let's Talk series on artificial intelligence, and we have had 2 of our 3 sessions, and I will tell you that I have been overjoyed by how well they have went. The first one was on AI and education, both with representatives from the president of Lake Forest College was with me, a professor was with me, as well as our team, and it was a robust discussion that made people think in a meaningful way. Last week, we had AI in the workforce, and we had community members sharing their experience with AI and how their daily work is being impacted by those advancements. It was also, like, as a science teacher, I was geeking out, and I could have talked for hours, and we talked for several hours, and I kept sitting on my hands because I was supposed to be asking the questions and not jumping in and just asking more questions, which you know I'm prone to. That was a thrilling experience for me. And then the last series is on Monday, May 20th, in which we will ask our community members to weigh in on their individual thoughts around artificial intelligence, collecting real-time data with them that will help inform our decision-making process on how, what, where can artificial intelligence be integrated into our settings after their individual feedback is processed. Those members that have been a part of the first and the second series were invited to take an online course that's free around artificial intelligence just to increase their own personal knowledge around the topic. And I think that as they complete the course, they will be even more eager to share their feedback on this advancement that I think is changing all facets of our life from where we were. We started to talk to Siri and Alexa, and now it is so much more. And the rate of change through Moore's Law is a little it's overwhelming to try to process how quickly things are advancing, and keeping up is nearly impossible at this time. So having conversations within the context of the community, I think, is exceptionally powerful to see where everybody falls on this. After spring break on Thursday, April 3rd, we are having an author study from, the author is Meg Kissinger, and she is going to spend the day first with our students at the high school, and then in the evening at the Gorton Center, she is going to have a conversation with Heidi Stevens, who is a columnist from the Chicago Tribune, and talk through the book While You Are Out. And it is not it's a powerful yet complex book around mental health. And it is not one that I think you're walking away with my gosh, I feel so much better. However, it is an authentic conversation that I think that is exceptionally important for young people and their families to have around mental health, and taking away the stigma of having conversations that could be impactful on whether or not when someone is in despair. So I hope you will join us to that, or join us for that event. I'm excited, and yet I know it will be an emotional experience. That concludes my superintendent's report, and thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Dr. Lennart, please. The principal's report.
I feel like we need a movement break since we went straight into workshop. I feel like we need to do a little dance or something. But hi, we are marching into March.
Just keep it going, Lennart.
Just keep it. We're marching in. I've said now in several meetings, I think I said last month, this February and March is just a tough time in schools in general. It's like from one holiday until spring break, everyone is just feeling the intensity of the darkness. We sprang forward though, but everyone's just feeling that, and you can just feel it. It's palpable, the challenges that happen in school and the cycle of school in February, March. But spring break is a mere 7 days away at this point, so we're all excited about that. A couple celebrations from the past month. There are many things that have happened, but these are a few highlights. My team actually came and we presented to the APT for D67 and D65, and then we also had some of our private schools present as well, and we did our LFHS 101, and that's the Rising Ninth Grade Parent Meeting. I think what was really interesting, we had athletics, activities. I presented, we presented on educational services and what we provide our students. The star of the show was really Dr. Abrams with the multi-tiered systems of support and how we are supporting our students. So we got a lot of questions, a lot of feedback from parents afterwards, because they want to make sure during this transition to high school that we have support stood up for them. So I thought that was really interesting that he was the one who spent the most time up in front of the parents, and he was the one who probably got the most questions. But that's just that reminder of the importance of us paying attention to that transition. We also had a student board engagement, so a few of our board members were able to meet in small groups with different students from Lake Forest, and then I actually met with the parents of those students in a separate session and asked some key questions about their experiences. This was a very diverse group of students representing all kinds of the students that we represent and families that we represent. One of the things that wasn't surprising to me, I've been hearing about it for a few years, but we heard a lot about student stress. Again, students believe that there are lots of activities, lots of athletic opportunities. There are academic programs that are available, but they still feel the stress that is high school, and how can we find ways to alleviate that stress? And then again, with the parents, they talked about the excellent communication, some other opportunities for communication that we can perhaps provide them. And then there was a leniency to talk about mental health and what resources that we have available to students. So the parents feel the stress as well. So I thought that was an interesting takeaway. I'm looking forward to providing the board with all the feedback. We're still working on getting everything typed up, everything prepared for a report to the board. Finally, talent show. I know that Ms. Lee just presented on it, and it was amazing. Over 2.5 hours, and you did not get bored for a second because of the many different talents of our scouts. So it's from new media, and we're watching little mini movies, mini shows that our students have produced. Some really funny ones that our staff participates in, to music, to comedy. We had a magician who's new to Lake Forest this year, amazing magician, who I'm still wondering how he did those tricks, and I think we all were. Everyone was amazed. But just the many different talents that we give time and space, and that our parents are actually the ones supporting that event. We have a lot of staff members who are involved in it, but they're supporting that event by making sure that happens every year. It's just another reason to be proud to be at Lake Forest. Couple things just administratively happening. This is staffing season, so not only is it February, March, which is when we give a parent survey, I guess, but it's also staffing season. So for me as a principal, it's my least favorite time of the year, because when the students that I love and the staff that I love, it all has to be numbers for a short amount of time, where we're trying to figure out sectioning and how many are in this class, and it's that constant reminder of, if I'm saying I'm not going to run a class because there are 6 students in it, those are 6 students who are going to be disappointed, who want to have that experience. So it's really probably my least favorite time, but it's something that I know each year is coming, so I prepare myself for. Something that I think is really exciting is our teachers. We just heard from the Fallon survey, and we know that the community has great trust in our teaching staff. We just heard that feedback in workshop. Great trust in our faculty and staff and in the work that they're doing. Our teachers have really, this past year with professional learning, developed an even more aligned program to the strategic goals that we've established as a district. And most recently, we've had Ed Camp, and these have been based on teacher interests, but really the quality of professional learning that's happening in those Ed Camp sessions, I think it rivals anything that any professional organization could possibly put on, and that's all teacher-driven and teacher-led. And I could not go another board meeting without shouting out the hard teachers who are working on the professional learning opportunities at Lake Forest. Then also we're in the middle of summer workshop and preparing for summer workshop and what new curriculum, what new opportunities for students we can create together when given that time, a little bit of that time in the summer. Students, what's going on in their world? Tons of things. But we have Mean Girls, which I have never seen the movie, and I'm intentionally not doing it now. But we have Mean Girls currently in production. Really excited. I've seen the cast, and it's going to be a dynamic cast. And just, I think, a fun time all the way around. Musical season is a happy time, even in the middle of February and March, too. Spring sports have started. I think we had the baseball team out tonight. So we are excited about our new season, excited about a great Scouts sports season. Also, something that I would be remiss if I didn't mention, and I try to do a decent job of doing this around early decision time, but there's also a time right now when colleges are coming out with regular decision. We have a lot of Scouts who have committed and a lot of Scouts who are still waiting. I have some schools, but there are some schools I'm still waiting on regular decision for. And still, there is that air of disappointment that can be, especially in our seniors, and excitement. And I just ask that the community remain mindful as we are making announcements, as we're celebrating, as we should, our Scouts and the amazing things that they're doing, that we have some students who are still struggling because they haven't quite landed where they want to land, and they've seen a lot of their peers start to. It's not because they haven't had opportunities to land, but they're just waiting to see if maybe there's another opportunity that opens up. So I just ask for the community always to remain mindful of that as we're celebrating. We're a community, and a community wraps their arms around every student. So, also, this is something we've been working on. Jordan and I have been working on for quite some time under Matt's direction. We're hoping to launch Varsity Tutors in the coming weeks, and that is an online tutoring platform 24/7. And that's something students, if they're struggling, there are multiple languages they can access it in. If they're struggling, they simply log on. They wait in a waiting room for a short period of time, and then they're connected with a tutor. And that tutor they can take an image of whatever assignment they're working on. The tutor can give them feedback. They can do it with writing assignments. Also in the Varsity tutoring suite, are college readiness tests and live tutoring on college readiness tests as well. So this is something we're really excited about, and Lake County, a lot of schools have stood this up. We've been cautiously trying to make sure that the platform is working as it should for our students, testing the platform to make sure the quality of tutors or the qualities that would be the quality of tutors that we would expect before we launch it with our community, because our community demands that we have good procedures, good processes, and then a good product in place. So we're being a little bit more cautious than maybe some of our other districts too.
Yeah, I would just add that we're getting emails real time to try to make sure that we have everything in terms of privacy managed. And I got another email from them this morning saying that they are getting closer and they've been in contact with Jordan. Aaron and I wanted it up, our patience level. However, we are being exceptionally thorough, and I'm confident that when it is ready to launch, it will be within all of our compliance standards that we're very proud that we have.
Can I ask how will our students access Varsity Tutors? Will they set up an account with Varsity is it discounted because they're Lake Forest High School student? I mean, have you mapped out that piece of it?
So it will be through Clever, our online platform Mr. Salas is probably the best one to talk about the digital aspect of it. And I think it's a Schoology piece, and then we log in through Clever, and then students they use their regular student ID, and it's just linked in with our Schoology, and they can just get to Varsity that way. So it's their student. One of the things that we want to make sure of is that even though Varsity keeps transcripts of everything, we know that they're following all SOPA guidelines. We can access all transcripts. It's something that's safer for us to make sure that it's happening through our school platforms, though. That keeps us sleeping better at night, too.
That's what's slowing it down a little bit. So as frustrated as I am, I'm awfully proud of Jordan and the layers that he has in place. So we should celebrate him and the policies and procedures he has placed to make sure we're protecting students.
So I was also wondering, how are the students paying for this? Like, will they be charged for it? Okay, because I wanted to be sure it's really accessible to everybody. All right,
It's free, yeah. We're excited now. You're paying for it. Yeah, Illinois is paying for
I
this,
already
but,
paid for that. My son used Varsity for his
But I will tell you that
career exam.
Oh,
we'll say
wow.
that many of our students are utilizing tutoring services. And to be able to have this real-time, 24 hours a day option, that's what we're so excited about. And if it turns out to be as good as they say it is, I think it's going to make a big difference in all families, regardless of the amount of resources an individual has.
We're excited. So, as I mentioned, Varsity provides that guidance for all of the college readiness tests, so ACTs and SATs, and I think even some college-level classes to grad school. They even have those available. Our scouts shouldn't be in those yet, but some of them might be interested in looking at them, certainly. That brings me to the next part of my report. As promised, after the assessment report last month, I was going to come back and talk to you about some of the work we've done around SAT. I think it's important for me to open this by saying we call these college readiness skills, not SAT skills. I think that's really important, and hopefully I'm not being too premature about this, but I think that's really important because right now the Illinois proficiency test is out to bid, which means it could change if the bid comes in lower, if they decide to shift the assessment. So it's really important that we as a school community, even though we're saying SAT because that's currently the proficiency test Illinois uses, not just for the proficiency aspect, but because we believe in college readiness skills. We believe that students should be able to perform well on these assessments, and we believe that we should give students every opportunity to perform well on these assessments. I just want to make sure that caveat of, as I say SAT, we really are looking for those transferable skills as well.
And then, just to reinforce, yeah, this is me, I'm sorry. It's not the superintendent's report, but the idea of moving from SAT to ACT, and after all we've done, and they're looking at it right now, so I may be encouraging you to help me reach out, because we've put a great deal of effort in this, and at times it appears as if the bids for one of the two is coming exceptionally lower than they thought, but when they make these changes, it impacts everybody in a very big way. So we will be reaching out. I've already reached out today to say that my preference is to stay with the SAT, and I may ask you guys to do the same in the coming days.
How many years has it been? Has it been 3, 2, 3?
5 years, I believe.
No.
Yeah.
No,
They won the bid they were ACT in the.
Right, we were ACT. 5 years?
I believe it's been 5. Yeah, it's coming due.
And, all right, let me ask this question. I know that 5 years ago, really it was a pivot through the whole Midwest. I know that our surrounding states went from ACT to SAT. Have any of our surrounding states made a decision yet? Are they done negotiating? Okay, you don't.
No, it's interesting. I don't know if they're in the same contract that we're in. I know that there are states that choose to do their proficiency tests based on the criteria of the Common Core, and they create their own tests with some sort of a testing organization. So there are states in all different categories of how they're assessing proficiency. Illinois, I think it was the only state to choose the higher cutoff for proficiency, which is great because we're expecting more of our Illinois graduates. what we are, and this is something Matt and I, Dr. Montgomery and I have talked about, in thinking about the ACT, I've been told that there are some pros and there are some cons. I really want to understand when they say our students are or aren't proficient. We all believe we have amazing scouts who are doing tremendous things in many different areas. We just want to make sure we understand if you're going to keep switching what proficiency is, then what are we doing? So that's kind of what where we're coming from as we think about the challenges and maybe some opportunities with ACT as well. So college readiness skills that's definitely, and that's something we've worked hard to try to shift that narrative. Right now, proficiency is assessed based on an SAT, though. A couple of things, this kind of goes into what I just mentioned, too. We have a mix, some of the challenges and opportunities, before I get into some of the work we've done, we have a mixed narrative around SATs that happens in the community. We have some people who say it's ACT, that's what matters, we can super score. We know that proficiency is based on SAT. We have students who are going to submit, who are not going to submit. We have test optional. We have a swing back from test optional to test required. We have so many things happening in the community. It's really challenging on a one-shot test one day for proficiency purposes. We know that students should be able to reassess, but for proficiency purposes, it's really challenging for us whenever students may or may not be taking it seriously because they may have their ACT super scores, already ready to go to colleges. They may be thinking, I'm not going to submit an assessment. When I go through some of the work that we've done in order to make sure we have a more holistic approach to the college readiness skills that we're providing, interestingly, we have some parents who have said, no, we're not interested. So that's very difficult too, because when you have such a small, what we would call number value with only 330 or so juniors, every single student we think about how we're fairly assessing them, they count. So that mixed narrative around does it, doesn't it, we will say it does because we firmly believe that college readiness skills are important too. And then also there's that, we don't want to be a test prep school. None of us want to be a test prep school. We believe our scouts are perfectly capable of doing well in college based on as we've seen, the robust curriculum that our amazing teachers in the community acknowledges, their amazing faculty and staff that they're providing. So it's that how much of this before you start to really get into the psyche of our students where they're like, is this all you care about? So we're always trying to balance that narrative as well. And then also when you think about the heart of SAT math, a lot of that for most of our scouts, the heart of the SAT portion of math is taught before they even get to us because it's the heart of algebra. So, how do we make sure that we have opportunities to move forward in math while still making sure that those foundational skills are assessed too? And then for students, just like I said, some of them say, the SAT, I'm going to do the ACT, so it's one shot, one test, one day. That's not what I'm going to do anyway. That test optional, as I mentioned. Also for students, it's really that narrative when we are reviewing college readiness skills, making sure that they understand this is about the skill recovery, using context clues, being able to, read a problem and understand what it's asking for. Those are life skills. Like, you should be able to do those things, but for them to see that whenever you're talking about the SAT is a challenge because they just see it as you just want me to pass the SAT. So that's something, it's a narrative because that's not how we feel, but it's something that we see as important too. And then just like with balancing our commitment to students and their wellness, they have test fatigue. They're taking a lot of AP courses, and they feel stressed, and oftentimes they don't feel well. So those challenges, they present challenges and opportunities for us in our narrative as well. So some of the newer work that we've been doing around college readiness skills, we've actually contracted with Highland Park Tutoring Center. Last year we tried to do some morning sessions. They were fairly successful, but it's early in the morning. This year we're actually bringing them in through the day, and we've targeted students in strand deficits, and they're working with the tutoring center during the day. We don't know what the gains will be from that, but we're hopeful. The students have been pretty responsive to it. We have Saturday, just like we always have, we have these Saturday SAT tutoring sessions. The beauty is, though, that our SAT tutors are Lake Forest High School teachers who have also now been trained by Highland Park Tutoring Center. We paid for them to be trained in the latest in how college readiness skills are being assessed in the fall. So we're looking forward to them implementing those as they're doing SAT tutoring. And we're one of the few districts, it's free. Most districts charge, and they charge a healthy sum for students to do the SAT tutoring. We're actually embedding the college readiness skills in classes like enriched studies, learning strategies. We're looking forward to also embedding those into our strategic reading and strategic math classes. We have bits and pieces that are starting to show up as we're doing them in enriched studies, and Scout Seminar will have some of the college readiness skills embedded in those. I'm going to show you an example of a grammar strand assessment, but the English department, we really feel like literacy, as we should, writing, that's an every department thing. Everyone's a literacy teacher. Like, if they read in your class, you're teaching literacy. Something that Kristen, Miss Carlson has really owned and elevated is we need to teach grammar to these students, conventions. And that's something that I heard my first year here from some parents, is where are the grammar and conventions taught? And so we have had this year we stood up grammar strand assessments. I'm going to show you a sample. And students are taking pre-tests and post-tests, and they are learning grammar, and the students are thanking us. So that's not even test skills and test rating. The students are saying, thank you for teaching me that. I didn't know that rule about a semicolon. I will be such a better writer now that I know that rule. So we're excited about the grammar work, and we do think that the conventions will. Did you want to say something?
I will also add that I'm excited to report that with the overhaul of the English Language Arts curriculum at District 67, we are uniformly teaching grammar and writing in ways that we haven't in the past, and I am proud of that work, and it's already being shared in a big way, and our teachers are saying it's making a huge difference. So my prediction is that as these students matriculate up with the new ELA overhaul in 67, it will lessen the load for 115 as they are more and more masterful, because for example, the grammar that my fourth grader is getting right now, as she is exposed to that from fourth grade through eighth grade and then becomes a scout at the high school, she will be far more equipped than our eighth graders this year, I have a daughter in eighth grade, will be for next year.
Yeah, it's the structure of language, and that's important. And they're at that in elementary school, especially. They're at that in that frame of mind where they can really begin to absorb those skills. 65 is actually doing a major overhaul as well, and they're looking at a lot of our work. And we've actually, in the last few months, stood up even greater partnerships among 67, 65, and 115 to look at all of our systems. So excited about our shared work as a pyramid of schools to make sure that our scouts come as prepared as possible, while we are also understanding the unique vibe in all the communities and what the communities are asking for as well. And then SAT communication, we're pushing it out. We have SAT study skills. We have college readiness skills that we have on Schoology for students to see. We push them out. We push them out on our projectors in the building, or our TVs in the building, our screens in the building. And also, every week, I send an email to students, and there's this handy-dandy tool that students can use with just a quick SAT strategy that they could think about, apply. If they try to answer the question and they go to our resource room, they can get a piece of candy and talk it over with a staff member. So we're trying to show that there are some strategies, testing strategies, that are not just good for the SAT, but all of those assessments, and just try to put a little bit of humor around it as well. So a couple future things that we're working on. This may be saying, who knows, in a year or two, ACT. We should just have it say college readiness, I suppose. But we actually are working on a digital platform, our own internal digital platform that addresses what we see as common threads of weakness for our students by cohort. And we're hoping to stand up that digital platform for students. That's our personal, that they can access. They can get help from teachers in the building as well. So we have some work going on around that. More targeted tutoring, something we've learned from our neighborhood schools, is that they will actually take each student's score report, and they will put them into remedial sessions, even if they're high and they want to go higher, based on where their area for growth is. And that's something that we did with our students who were approaching the benchmark, but we're hoping to offer that to all students, because all students want to do better. So that more targeted tutoring, more intentional tutoring as well. And then here, you probably can't see it well, but this is an example of a grammar strand assessment in English. This is a question that would be asked of students. Again, these are happening now in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, pre-tests and post-tests, and the juniors just took theirs yesterday. And we are seeing great gains, and amazingly, and actually not amazingly, this is Lake Forest. The students thank you when you teach them these things. So it's just an overall amazing place to be, Lake Forest, but just some amazing work happening among the different departments as well. So with that, that's the end of my report, the superintendent and principal's report.
All right.
Jenny and I were just wondering how much longer you were going to talk. So, because we were enjoying it so much, we didn't want it to end. So, we're just a little sad right now.
All right. Well, thank you, both of you. It's very good. No, really, really enlightening, and I know it's a significant amount of work. So thank you, and we look forward to what's happening soon. The public participation. So just a little caution. We do 2 public participations. So this one, if you have and would like to come up, it should pertain to the actual agenda items that are on this. Otherwise, that won't take very long, but we'd politely ask you to wait for this second chance to do that. If there are folks that would like to speak at this time, this is the time, but there is a maximum of 3 minutes that we'll time on those types of things. And if you have materials you'd like to share with us either before or after, you certainly can do that and make that available. So if there are any folks that would like to speak to the board at this time, we'd be happy to listen. If you don't mind sharing your name, and
Yes.
that would be awesome. Thank you so much.
Can you hear me? My name is Jennifer Regan. I'm one of the athletic trainers at Lake Forest High School. I have been employed by Lake Forest High School since August of 2002. I am joined by my colleague, Bart Castillo, who has also been employed by Lake Forest High School since 2017. We are here because the month of March is National Athletic Training Month. So we wanted to bring that to your attention and give you a little bit of an idea of what we do throughout the day, as us athletic trainers seem to be on a little bit of an island. And so we want to share with you some of that. We are, athletic trainers are highly qualified, multi-skilled healthcare professionals who render treatment in collaboration with physicians. Athletic training is recognized by the AMA since 1990 as the allied healthcare profession. Athletic trainers encompass prevention, examination, diagnosis, treatment, and rehabilitation of acute and chronic injuries of our athletes. However, we are unique in the sense that at Lake Forest High School, we have developed a sports medicine program. Since 1992, when my former colleague, Jeff Dooley, was hired on, we strive to create a comprehensive sports medicine facility at Lake Forest High School. So that includes starting our days at 10:30 in the morning so that the students can come into the athletic training room to see us for rehabilitation, evaluation of injuries, that is during their lunch hours, as well as any free periods or study halls, and occasionally during their wellness classes if they're unable to participate. So during that time, we also have had the chance to meet with other staff members who have come to see us, as well as some students who may do sports outside of the high school. So we've done our best to embed ourselves in the community as well as in the school so that everyone could get to know us, not just the coaches. By working during the day, we have the opportunity then to communicate with the coaches as well as parents, physicians, all before the main part of athletics starts, which is after school. So we transition then after school to being able to work with doing the taping, as everyone knows us by, as well as working with any other acute injuries that come up during practices and/or games. Our day could end anywhere between 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. depending on what events are going on. We have been very fortunate that Lake Forest High School has recognized the fact that by hiring us on, we have that unique opportunity to get to know everybody at the school. We also have a third athletic trainer who has been contracted through Illinois Bone and Joint Institute to help us throughout the day as well as after school, due to the fact that we are covering 2 campuses after school with West and East, having both athletics. What else do I want to say? This year alone, to this point, we have made contact with athletes, staff, and non-athletes approximately 4,000 times throughout the school day, along with countless interactions with athletes after school and in the training rooms or on the sidelines. So thank you for allowing us this opportunity to share with you what our athletic trainers do here during the month of the National Athletic Training Month of March. So thank you very much.
We don't usually do interactions in the in the public comment, but I will. Thank you so much. I spent my entire college career basically in the training room, and they kept me functional so I could play and develop as an athlete. But it is an incredible gift to be able to let kids be able to progress, work through their injuries as they grow, and need to understand the rehabilitation, because the doctors in a lot of cases will tell you what's broken or what happened and maybe do the surgery, but the trainers are the ones that go through the exercises and the detail and the rehab, and in a lot of cases know the body almost better than the doctors that are there to fix it. No offense to the doctors, but it is what actually happens in terms of the trainers. And so it's an invaluable gift to allow them to function and work through it, and also the compassion that's needed because of the difficulty and the motivation and the challenge that those athletes go through when they're injured. It is something that crushes you emotionally.
Absolutely.
And to be there, there's someone that can help work you through that. And for me personally, my beautiful tennis career ended at the ripe age of 22, being injured twice in 6 months. So being on the tour and then not being on the tour. So it was something that when it's taken away from you, it's really challenging, and a lot of work through that. And you guys, so I can only imagine, but the number of interactions and the lives you're touching is fantastic. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'd like to say something too. I want to say thank you as a parent of prior Lake Forest High School athletes. I know 2 of my 3 kids spent a fair amount of time with your team. And I want to thank you as a parent, because I had a son that had a very severe injury and really thought somehow you guys had like the glue to fix him so that he could keep playing and no one would have to know. And you guys said, no, you need to call your mother. You need to see a doctor, and it needs to happen right now. And you made him get on the phone, and you watched him. And so thank you for even co-parenting with me. But thank you for everything you do. I know how many kids at the school rely on you. And I also am well aware of how, knowing that you're there, how much that matters to the kids. So thank you for that.
We like to have it as a safe space.
Dr. Schaubacher.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer and team. So I would echo the comments here, having had 2 athletes, varsity athletes in 2 sports, and going through significant injuries, and the work you do, not just in the physical aspects, but the emotional and psychological aspects, that the kids know you're there and helping them through it is invaluable. And I would like to make a plea to my fellow colleagues. I know that we didn't get the money for doing significant upgrades in the referendum to the trainers' facilities, but I would plead to my colleagues to keep that in mind, that if we find some additional money or can maybe do a pledge drive where we can help you and your team in continuing to provide those extraordinary services for our student athletes. So thank you for everything you do, and we should not forget that you are working under very difficult conditions in very limited space, and I think you deserve better, and I hope we will find the money to make some improvements over the next couple of years.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Joseph Kopsik, LFHS, class of 2005. First off, Aaron, you might want to watch that Mean Girls musical because it contains some content that some parents might not deem appropriate for kids that age. And I do want to be germane to the discussion. We started off by talking about architecture and renovations. And feel free to respond after my time's up. You're going to have to let me know because this is a lot more than 3 minutes. I'd like to know what you guys are planning on doing with that room I heard about last summer that has rainbow Christmas lights in it that teachers are using to have inappropriate conversations about sexuality without the students' parents' knowledge or consent. So the last time I was here was August 8th, and I spoke about some teachers who have abused kids. By the way, there's at least 5 in the last 50 years at LFHS alone, and at least 5 others that I know about in neighboring school districts who have abused kids. So this was, came here on August 8th after some new revelations about Dave Miller. Fortunately, there's a judge ruled that a federal lawsuit regarding Miller can go forward, but I just want to let people know there's also shop teacher and coach Michael McKay of Lake Forest, a food service employee of LFHS gave his number to a teenage boy. This is all in the last 5 to 10 years. Paul Brock of Deer Path Middle School, Benjamin Zala of Lincoln Park High School, Benjamin Davidson, David Miller, Charles H. Ritz at Lake Bluff Junior High, Cynthia Martin at LFHS in the 80s, Diane Ross in early 2000s at Lake Forest College, and Superintendent Jay Hoffman, former superintendent, he intimidated a child. He tried to intimidate a child into silence, one of David Miller's victims, and it wasn't even the right child. He heard that some kid was talking about Dave Miller, so he got the child wrong, and he went to a completely innocent child. Of course, the other child was innocent, and he tried to intimidate that kid. And his superior, Harry Griffiths, I don't know the exact name of his position, but he assisted Jay Hoffman in this. He knew that Jay Hoffman was trying to silence Miller's victims. And I'm just wondering why, feel free to answer. I gave you an opportunity to meet with me in the lounge because I've been researching this, and other professionals in the county, like lawyers who have abused kids. I'm trying to put this all together because I'm really worried about it, and I have intimate knowledge about this. I'm compiling a list of dozens of abusers, and I'm just wondering why you guys didn't come talk to me. I invited you to talk to me out in the lobby or the lounge or whatever you call that room back there. I'm gonna keep showing up. I'm gonna start showing up monthly if you guys don't talk to me, because it's gonna be pretty painless to talk to me for about 3 minutes about this stuff instead of just let teachers go on abusing kids over and over again. And I'm seeing things like the LFHS's lawyers are claiming that the school has no responsibility to protect kids. And you probably think that's not true, but it actually is. 1981 Supreme Court case of Warren versus DC, and it was affirmed later by 2005 Castle Rock versus Gonzalez. Municipal governments, including you guys and the police, have qualified immunity. They can't be sued for failing to protect kids.
Your 3 minutes are up.
Please come talk to me. This is very important.
All right, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Are there any others who would like to speak this time? All right, moving on to the board committees. Education Committee, John Venson, please.
Thank you. Just a little bit of historical information first. When Aaron and I first met, before the school year started, to discuss what the Ed Committee should be discussing or what kinds of topics we should entertain, we brought up the idea of transitioning from 8th grade to the high school. And under Aaron's driving force, we had the last meeting was a meeting about transitions, and it included District 65 and District 67. And it was a thought-provoking and informative meeting, extremely so, that really opened up my eyes to the scope of issues that face children. It's both, not just academic, but social, relational, physical, and it was great to see the participation that we had. It was an excellent meeting, and I would invite, Erin made some comments on it in one of her weekly reports a little while ago, but I would invite her to add to this as she would like about where we're going to go forward from here, and we're looking forward to it. everybody was incredibly engaged.
So I think that's Scout Seminar, is that right?
Are you giving me the mic back?
Yeah, if you can have the mic back, sure. If you would like to add some color.
Well, with the
Brief.
So I will. No, a couple of, and that was actually, Vale Kaiser was somebody who did a lot of the planning as well, and I know this was the brainchild of several board members, so I just appreciate the opportunity to lead alongside Vale, too. A big takeaway was the fact that we have really improved our transitions between 65, 67, and 115. Hearing the 67 and 65 principals talk about the work that they've seen over the last couple years with the instructional directors, most recently a shared writing assessment between the two 8th grade feeders, the two middle school feeders, and numerous other opportunities that we've had to transition. It was a great celebration in that regard, and then a learning opportunity. We heard a lot about how we support students and how we transfer information between the schools during the transition. And so, and we heard a lot about IEPs, special education, 504s. So we've had 2 follow-on meetings, one that will lead to administrators and teachers participating in some summer planning around some common guidelines for transitioning among the 3 districts, and we hope to actually put together some information that we can share with families to assure them that we are as aligned as we can be with the unique communities and that we are communicating. And then secondly, we have a multi-tiered systems of support meeting we're going to have after spring break with teacher leaders and with administrators, where we're going to share what we do to support students, find commonalities, and then articulate interventions that are common among the schools so the parent community will know. And that's just the beginning. So good things are to come from that meeting. We're looking forward to many more.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you.
No, thanks so much. Finance and Operations Committee, Dave?
All right, thanks. We had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and we went through what you'll probably, or you've seen on the action item report today of things we need to make decisions on. First, we reviewed the audit results, and there's a Illinois Financial Profile designation. It's a calculated measure that includes revenue, expenses, cash on hand, and debt, various ratios. And we received the least exciting, but the highest rank of recognition. So nothing like outstanding or anything, it's recognition. That's the highest rank you can get, so we should be happy about that. And the opinion in their audit report, our third party that does the audit, considered us clean. They had no other opinions, negative opinions. And when you have that, it's that they're stating that we've presented everything fairly and in accordance with the U.S. accounting principles. And they also did not have any management report saying we needed to do things differently. So very clean, and congratulations, and nice job to the Finance and Ops Committee for managing that. Or not committee, department. We also went through the student fees. This is something that we do annually. Since about 3 years ago, back when John was the chair, from a board perspective, we've been trying to take measurable reductions in student fees, or at least recommend that to administration, trying to allow opportunities to be more available to all of our students and their families. And so this year, the finance team worked together kind of differently. Usually it's just our committee that we talk through, but this year they brought in the Principals Advisory Committee and Building Leadership to provide recommendations, which I think was really great because we get that voice that we don't typically have, and really connects us to the students and the teachers as well. And so the Finance and Ops Committee was in agreement with all of the recommendations as a consensus. So just consider that going in. Just as a heads up, one of the reasons of this measured reduction, just so we're all understanding this, is the student fees are a source of revenue. So even though we'd probably like to have them further reduced, we have to find ways to make that up with less expenses in other areas. So we're trying to make progress, but there's only so much we can make at one time without disrupting other activities that we're doing. We talked about the activity buses. And as you might have seen in the memos, the lease costs are going up significantly. And so even though we would like to purchase some buses, there are just not any on the market right now. And so we're leasing one more year, but we're also approving the ability to buy new ones as they become up on the market. And so we all agreed on that. And then finally, audit services. District 67 is proposing that we go out to bid again and just get some new quotes. Unfortunately, it's a little bit too late to make a change for this upcoming year. We're already starting to work with our auditor, so we are going to go with them for this next year, but work together with District 67 to get bids out and get them requoted so that we're ready potentially for next year. Not saying we will change, but we're just going to get new quotes. But we also agreed that it's important just from an efficiency perspective that we're using the same auditor between 67 and District 115 from a reporting and preparation and relationships perspective. That's about it.
Thanks, Dave, and thanks to the committee. So we'll step through a couple of those things and approve them. Liaison report, the EdRed legislative update. There's just one small thing I wanted to bring forward. One of the projects we were working on around special ed and equal payments from the state, that found its way into, I believe, the Senate committee. So I haven't heard yet necessarily where that's going, but that law will give some structure to equal payments around the special ed funding and try to balance it out so that schools are not pivoting and making choices on funding kids based on financial motives in terms of placement and reimbursement levels. So that is kind of moving along. So that's was really cool news to hear. And so EdRed and another organization are helping really drive that. So that was neat to hear. So that's it from that piece. If we could move on to the action items, we'll do that. So let me. All right, so may I have the approval for the 2024-2025 shared services compensation? May I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Dr. Schabacher?
Aye.
Dr. Vinson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the 2024-2025 administrative compensation, please?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Dr. Vinson?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Dr. Schabacher?
Abstain.
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I item number 3, may I have a motion to approve the 2024-2025 exempt compensation?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Dr. Vinson?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Dr. Schabacher?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve item number 4? May I have a motion to approve the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources contract in accordance with the previously approved compensation?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Dr. Schabacher?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Dr. Vinson?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number 5, may I have a motion to approve the Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning and Accountability Enabling Agreement in accordance with the previously approved compensation?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Dr. Schabacher?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Dr. Vinson?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Weinbrenner? Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 6, may I have approval, motion to approve the 2024-2025 student fees?
Mr. Noble, there's 2 blue sections in your packet. Can you please read those?
Yes, sorry, thank you. Reading, yes. With the approval of these compensation reports and contracts, please note that the salaries for District 115 and shared services administrators under new 1-year contracts or new multi-year contracts will be individually listed on the personnel report for the April board meeting. Are we good? All right.
There's one more right above that in the beginning of the action items.
I just thought it was blue. I didn't think I had to read it. Please be advised that there is a correction to the agenda and the compensation being approved this evening, and this is for the upcoming 2024-2025 years, as I think I read for each of the motions, I believe. So there we go. So just, there was just so everybody knows if they actually want to harass us. There was 2023-2024 on the actual agenda that was publicly there, so we needed to fix it, and not having the time and whatever, that didn't get fixed until now. So that's there, and we will reaffirm those things in April again, so you'll see, and we'll make in the consent agenda maybe or something like that. Okay, cool, all right. Lovely, thank you, Tiana. Number 6, may I have a motion to approve the 2024-2025 student fees?
So moved.
Second.
We spoke to them, so I don't know if we need to go into it further. Is there anything we really want to? Okay, all right. So may I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Dr. Vincent?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Dr. Schabacher?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 7, may I have a motion to accept the 2022-2023 annual financial audit, please?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Dr. Schabacher?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Dr. Vincent?
Aye.
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 8, may I have a motion to approve the bid packages for 2024 enabling projects improvements to Lake Forest High School East and West campuses, please?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Dr. Vincent?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Dr. Schabacher?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number 9, may I have a motion to approve the approval of the 2024-2025 Midwest Transit lease and the purchase of the 2025 activity buses on state bid contract?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Dr. Vincent?
Aye.
Dr. Schabacher?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. The consent agenda, any item can be removed from the consent agenda at the request of the board member. Seeing none, unless there are some, please interrupt me. But may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items, including items number 1 through 6, please?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Dr. Schabacher?
Aye.
Dr. Vincent?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Now the FOIA requests. See, Frank McCormick, 5 of 5 completed. Parents Care FOIA Office, 2 of 2 completed. Jeff Brinkett, 7 of 7 completed. Dan O'Neill, 1 of 1 completed. Jacqueline Ponzetti, 1 of 1 completed. Samir Vidra, 1 of 1 completed. Philippe Millen, 1 of 1 completed. Christy Walker, 1 of 1 completed. L. Lawlett, 1 of 1 in progress. Sherry Reed Smart Procure, 1 of 3 in progress. Doug Clayton, 1 of 1 completed. And Jim Tite, 1 of 1 in progress. One thing before we jump on, I wanted to turn it over to Matt for a moment.
So if Mrs. Oakley could introduce and welcome our new communications manager, as well as when we're completed with that, I'm going to kick it to Dr. Schabacher for an announcement.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Montgomery. So as many of you know, I think, in recent weeks, we've been interviewing candidates for our new communications manager. We had a really strong pool of candidates. We had over 20 qualified candidates, so we went through a really thoughtful process. And tonight, I'm pleased to present to you a recommendation for Tom Garrity as our new communications manager, serving districts 115 and 67. Tom is a results-focused communications generalist with a diverse experience earned in media, education, and the corporate sectors. Tom's career began as an Emmy Award-winning photojournalist at WLS-TV, ABC 7 News. After almost a decade at Channel 7, Tom moved to New Trier High School, where he became a multimedia manager, responsible for all aspects of the district's TV studio, video content, digital signage, and campus AV labs. Tom eventually moved to corporate, supporting the company, where he moved to Allstate Insurance, supporting the company's digital transformation by enhancing internet search, launching employee engagement tools, and optimizing the company's digital platforms. In a call with one of Tom's references, she began with the reflection, "I could always count on Tom." He was characterized as a thoughtful listener, a tenacious problem solver, committed, collaborative, even-keeled, with a great sense of humor, which is going to come in handy. Pending board approval, Tom will join our communications team on April 1. I'd like to introduce Tom Garrity.
Thank you, Tom, and we just did approve, so you're, I think you're in good shape, so you're
We've got
stuck.
another board
You're
to go.
stuck now.
Yeah, no, thank you, and I appreciate it. I also wanted to send my appreciation both to Dr. Montgomery and to Ms. Oakley for letting me continue my career journey here at the district. Also, thank you, President Noble, and the rest of the board for your approval. As you heard, I've had quite a diverse career journey in corporate and in school communication, as well as working as a photojournalist. Over the past few weeks, I've had the opportunity not only to meet with the interview committee and the superintendent's cabinet, but also got a tour of the high school and the opportunity to speak to a few of the parents, staff, faculty, and students. And what has become evident is just the passion and how proud everybody is to be a scout. And I'm looking forward to, starting in April, be able to share those stories more with a broader audience, and so that everyone knows how great it is to be a scout. So thank you.
Thanks so much.
If we could turn it over to Dr. Schabacher for one additional announcement.
Thank you, Dr. Montgomery, Mr. Noble, my dear colleagues at the board, and to the community. I would like to inform you that I will resign my position as a school board member as of April 30th. This is due to my personal circumstances. As you have noticed, I had great difficulties in participating in either my committee obligations and or the board meetings, and will miss again the April board meeting due to my professional obligations. And I feel I can't serve the community or you or the administration or the students appropriately. And I think the district and you deserve somebody who can dedicate that time to it. That was not foreseeable when I went for the election, and I want to thank all of you, first of all, the people who voted me into this position and trusted me, as well as you, my colleagues at the board, the administration. Dr. Montgomery, you had just joined. Dr. Leonard, you had just joined, and it was a great privilege and honor to work with all of you. I think together we achieved some very important steps for the future of Lake Forest and its students. One, Lake Forest, to be the first I would mention, the mission of Portrait of a Learner, and then the strategy and the execution of the strategy plan, which you presented to us, Dr. Leonard, and I found quite compelling. We started this journey together in a very difficult time, coming just out of the pandemic. And I must say it was truly a privilege to work with all of you. And I thank you for your patience with me. I'm sure I wasn't always easy to deal with, but I hope that you keep me in good memory, and I wish you all the best. And my official letter of resignation will be sent to the board shortly, but I wanted to take the opportunity here, as I can't be here in April, to thank all of you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Schabacher. You will be missed, and I genuinely appreciate the contributions you've made during your time, and wish you all the best. So I'm sure we'll talk before April 30th, but thank you for sharing that news, and best to you and your family.
Thank you.
How about a round of applause for Dr. Schabacher?
All right, so on to announcements. Friday, March 22nd, 2024 will be spring break, no school or students or staff. Monday, April 1st, 2024, school will resume. Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024, Board of Education that's our next meeting, 7 p.m. I'm sorry, is there anybody that would like to speak outside of the agenda items for public comment this time? Okay, I had anticipated that, but thank you, thank you. With that said, may I have a motion to adjourn the Lake Forest Community High School District 115 Board Meeting for March 12th, 2024?
So moved.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Have a voice vote. Oh, please, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.